All right, welcome. Welcome to the third episode of WeChat at AllThingsRTC. WeChat is a virtual fireside chat series with innovators, product managers, and developers who are doing amazing things in the RTC space. My name is Virginia Liu. I'm Senior Vice President at Agora. Agora is a real-time engagement platform provider to allow developers to embed voice, video, and messaging right inside their applications. Now, today I have two special guests live from New York and the Netherlands. We'll have Selcuk Atli from Bunch. Hi, Selcuk.
Hi there. Thanks for having us.
Great to have you. And Geoff from the Netherlands, producer of at Total Mayhem Games.
Hey, Virginia. Hey, everyone.
Great. Well, thank you both for joining me. Now, today our topic is play a part together and how to make your game more social with live voice and video. With COVID-19 keeping everybody at home, the gaming industry and the WHO together to create this initiative to encourage people to kind of play video games together while practicing social distancing. And both Bunch and Total Mayhem Game have products that feel like designed specifically for times like this, right? That allow people to kind of stay connected while they're in physical isolation. So very excited to hear what you got to say about making games social and help people stay connected while trying to flatten the curve. So let's dive into it. First, let's go with a quick introduction about yourself and your company. Selcuk, let's start with you.
Sure. Hi there. I'm Selcuk Atli, co-founder and CEO of Bunch. We're a company based out of New York City. And we make an app called Bunch that allows people to party up and group video chat before, during, and after playing their favorite multiplayer games like Mars Dash or Brawl Stars, Fortnite, Minecraft, things like that.
Fantastic, thank you. Great animation there. Thank you, Selcuk. And Geoff, a quick introduction about yourself and your company.
Yeah, I'm Geoff, producer at Total Mayhem Games. We are a mid-sized game company in Europe, and we are best known for our gaming series We Were Here. And all the We Were Here games are a co-op puzzle game, so you play it together with a friend. And the story is always you're two explorers in Antarctica. Through the vast lands of snow and ice, you find this spooky castle. You go inside, you get separated, and all you have is a walkie-talkie to talk to each other. And you're in different rooms. You need to solve puzzles and try to find a way out. And that's the premise of all the games that we make with We Were Here.
Great, fantastic. Thank you both for the introduction. Now let's start the little questioning and chat. And so let's tell us a little bit about what drove you to create the products. So Selcuk, what drove you to create Bunch?
So a lot of our team, like I imagine a lot of the folks in the audience, grew up playing LAN parties with our friends, right? So getting together in the same physical space like our living room or an internet cafe and playing games like Street Fighter and FIFA and Counter-Strike, Age of Empires. And a lot of the fun part of doing those things is to actually not only playing a game that you love, but also playing those games with the people that you love, sitting next to each other, making fun of each other, having the banter and the camaraderie. And kind of in late 2017, we asked the question, why can't you do such a LAN party with your friends anytime, anywhere, just using your smartphone? Because your phone is as powerful as your computer 3 years ago. It has unlimited data plans. We have great WebRTC thanks to technologies like Agoura's. And the only thing you were really waiting for was like great real-time multiplayer games that you could play on your phone. And that was just starting to happen with Clash Royale or Supercell and like Fortnite and PUBG and things like that were coming to smartphones. So we decided to create a very frictionless experience where you can party up on video chat and move from game to game together with people that you actually know. And that's the core experience of Bunch.
Very fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Now, Geoff, what drove your team to create We Were Here Together?
Well, actually, it's a funny story. We Were Here Together is the third installment in a series. So it actually started with the game We Were Here. And that was a student project. And back then, I wasn't part of the team. I was their mentor at the university. And the moment they launched, really the first moment they launched, the servers, burned down, meltdown. There were so many people playing. Everybody was so enthusiastic about the concept. And then I did something I usually never do as a mentor. Usually I always say, finish your education, graduate, get your diploma. And at that moment I said, you know what? Postpone the diploma. Make sure you first go and make the second game, because this is something really special you will have here. And that's what the team did, and they started a company, they built out, and that's how We Were Here went to We Were Here 2, and now We Were Here Together, the third installment. And around the time that they started with We Were Here Together, I got on board, and we set out the ambition that we had, and we tried to make the awesome game that is We Were Here Together.
Wow, fantastic. And you still have your job at the university, yeah?
Still, I'm still allowed in.
Great, thank you. Awesome. So now you different, I think two of you have different reasons why you create a game, for different drivers and different circumstances. But there seems to be, one thing in common that you actually, collaboration and social and working with another human being actually is a core element of your app, right, of your game or platform. In fact, Bunch is more of a platform than just a game. So, I think for the longest time, there's a perception that the gaming is very much an antisocial thing. It's solitary. It's like it's a stereotypical image of a teenage boy playing in the basement, right? So now, has social always been? So, gaming has always been social, or what that has changed over the years? So Geoff, let's start with you.
Well, I don't believe that gaming has always been that solitary. I mean, it has been local. So, when you first booted up your Atari system or your Nintendo system, you had 2 controllers or 4 controllers, and, you were bound to that couch. And a lot of times your friends weren't there on the same couch, so you had to play alone. And now the things changed, that the technology is here that you can play together, although you're not in the same room. So I think that it's always been a social activity. It's always been better with friends, but we now have the technology to play together, although you're not in the same room. And I think, that makes gamers still really social, despite the fact that people think that they're really solitary.
Mm-hmm. I see. Yeah, so you feel like it's always been social. But a lot of times people don't come outsider. They don't see it. They don't see the social activity happening because they see you playing there in your room.
Or basement, or whatever.
Yeah, right. Yeah, makes sense. Selcuk, what's your take on this?
I do think that gaming has a lot of games have always been social. Like obviously there's been games that you play by yourself and stuff, but like Jess said, even if you look at the first Ataris, like the game Pong, is a social game, and Nolan Bushnell tells the story of he would basically put Pong machines in coffee shops, and people would meet each other playing that game, right? And I think we've had with the Nintendo systems and the LAN parties in the 90s, gaming was very social. The difference was you had to get together in person in a LAN party or your friend's living room and stuff. But I think we've even had a period in the past decade or two, games have kind of been antisocial or asynchronous in a way, right? So a lot of the social games that you had on your phone were things like Words with Friends, where you make a move and then your friends make a move, and then you never really talk to each other. It doesn't really feel that face-to-face because I played and then you're playing the next day. I think we're moving back to the original thesis of playing on the same couch together from that asynchronous model with real-time games like Total Mayhem's game or Clash Royale or PUBG and things like that. And that's kind of the type of experience that we're trying to do, replicating that physical experience when you're physically apart at Bunch.
Okay, got it.
The thing I like to add is, let's not forget that also the demographic of people playing games has changed. I mean, the pimply teenager that it was in the 80s or in the 90s, now everyone has a mobile phone. Everyone is familiar with playing on a Nintendo Switch or whatever. So, it's mainstream now. There's a wide audience for it.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. So tell us a little bit about the demographic of your game. For example, let's talk about Bunch, your first party game. What's the demographic that you've had in the past, and what does it look like now?
Sure, I can talk across the Bunch platform. So prior to COVID-19, I would say a lot of our most retentive users were like the 15-year-olds who loved playing things like Minecraft and Roblox and stuff, which was great. But I think with COVID-19 acting as like a Super Bowl ad for this use case where you can video chat while playing games with your friends, our audience went mainstream in just a few days. In March, we literally had our average age move from 14 to 23, and it stayed there. The average gender breakdown moved from 52% male to 61% female.
Wow.
Right, and then we're seeing things like less than 10% of Bunch users have Discord installed on their phones, which basically tells me that like these are people who don't have Steam accounts. These are people who don't own a PlayStation. So we're basically turning a generation of non-gamers into social gamers. That is, people who care more about the social experience of playing the game with your friends as a method of communication than just playing the game itself.
Wow, that's amazing. So the average age, almost double, right? Just in the period of a month.
Yeah, I would say it went to millennial and mainstream, right? So I think we're basically seeing a lot of that with other mainstream social media applications like TikTok as well, right? It started being adopted by Generation Z and then went millennial. I think that's like the phase that you see with social media applications that are going mainstream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes sense. Now, Geoff, what about your title? What's the demographic that you typically see, and what did you see now?
Well, we have a very specific fan base, and what we see is that people really like to play with their life partner or a very good friend because it's an experience. The We Weird games are really an experience. You have to try to survive together, and there's a lot of communication going on. So, just the other day I was playing with a friend myself, and we tried to describe a certain flower in the game that was really, mixed up. And although I know this guy for 30 years, there was no way that we could really easily communicate on how the flower looked and how he should, do the puzzle. And that's the fun thing you really have with friends. And now with Corona, we also see that a lot of the play sessions end up to the same IP address, which actually tells us that these are people playing in the same house or in the same area. So probably a life partner or a very good friend they play with, just a few meters from them. But still, that is the experience they want to do together.
Mm-hmm. Right. Now, what's the average age of your player? I would imagine will be a little bit higher, right? Now the teenage, but more mature audience.
Yeah, we really aim for a mature audience because we have really difficult puzzles. That's what our fan base wants to. We don't have killing zombies or any shoot mechanics or stuff like that. So yeah, I think if it's on age, it's someone from 25 until 35, 40, somewhere there. So it's somebody that already grew up with video games and now matured and just want to sit back and have a really relaxed experience, but difficulty by thinking about it, not by having really fast skills.
Right. Yeah. So it's interesting to see. I think the younger generation, the Gen Z, they grew up with video. They're very comfortable with the video. So I imagine, with Bunch, that you see the younger audience is super comfortable, right? You cannot imagine any of them feel uncomfortable with the video. But I think with the more mainstream, more older generation, the video might not be a natural thing for them. They didn't grow up with the video, right? So are you seeing the different receptivity in terms of how comfortable the newer demographics using video and how they're comfortable with that?
I'm not sure it's totally about the demographic. I'd say it's more about the game and the context, right? So I think video makes most interactions with actual friends better, right? So if you're playing with people that you actually know, that you're friends with, it enhances the game experience quite a bit, like seeing their laugh and their reaction. Because the way we look at it is like playing video games with your friends is like a replacement to video chat. Because video chatting with your friends is awkward. I don't know how social everyone in the audience is, but I don't think people want to video chat with their friends every single day. But video chatting with your friends while playing games enhances the game experience. Having said that, if you're basically playing with strangers, then yes, video is awkward, whatever game that you're playing, because it's not a very natural thing to video chat with strangers for a mainstream audience. And I would say that it really depends on the type of game too, right? So there's types of games where you really need to be focused on the game, and you don't care that much about your friends' reactions. In those instances, voice chat is better, as it distracts less from the game. But there's games like Space Team, which is basically like quite similar in terms of game mechanics to what we were here together, right? In that situation, like it enhances the gameplay, seeing your friends' reactions while you're talking about it. So I think it's really depending on the context and the game itself.
Makes sense. So this really transcends demographic. It's really that kind of interactivity, that shared experience that kind of draw people of all demographic or age group together.
Right. I think about who you're playing with and what you're playing really matters more.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, cool. So now let's talk a little bit about how is the COVID-19 kind of impacting your, your game and your users. So I think Selcuk, can you share a little bit about besides the demographic change, right? Can you also talk about some other impact that you're seeing with the COVID-19 on your game?
So it has really changed the engagement is still quite the same, but it really changed the top of the funnel for Bunch. Since the beginning of March, our audience on a monthly basis grew more than 35 times in just a couple of months, and that happened at global scale too, right? So before March, I would say 95% of our audience was in the United States and Canada. Now 30% of it is in the United States and Canada, and the rest is all over the world. And I think the reason for that is because of social isolation, people started seeking this user experience. While before they didn't even know that such a thing was possible, right? Because when you can't see your friends, what's the first thing that you're looking for? It's a group video chat. That's how you discover Zoom and House Party and stuff like that. And when you get bored with all the basic games on House Party, what's the next thing that you're looking for is to play games while you video chat, and we're right there. And I think that's caused a quite large spike in our traffic.
Yeah, that's a good problem to have, I guess.
Yeah, it's been exciting. It's been kind of intense to get service because we're kind of prepare for that. But it's a nice problem to have.
Yeah, to say the least. How about you, Geoff? Any changes you're seeing with the COVID-19?
Well, in the sales we see like a 50% increase. So that's things that we only see if we do a very large sale, like 50% off or 80% off. So that's really amazing, and we've seen that now for like 2 months. So that's really a long time. But also, if we look at the servers, the increase is even more. Like it's almost 100%, and we think that is because people played the game halfway through, maybe. And then they had all other things to do, and then suddenly, now they have time and they're at home and they think, what we're gonna do? Oh, wait a minute! I had this game. We were here. You know what? If you buy it also, then we can play it together. And then they start playing a game again that they've already played halfway through. So that's something that we see, and of course we're very happy with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great. Well, now let's talk a little bit about sort of how you're using voice and video inside your game. Both, voice and video is a big part of the experience you deliver. So I want to understand a little bit better how you're using it. How is it part of the gameplay, and how is it part of the core experience? So Selcuk, let's start with you.
Right. And I would say video chat is not a feature of Bunch, it's at the core of what we do, right? So it's basically, and I'd say an interesting thing about Bunch is that it's not like a voice or video chat feature inside the game. It's a persistent experience that allows you to communicate over voice and video before and after the game as well. And so it obviously kind of improves engagement, right? Because if you basically ask any makers of real-time multiplayer games, what's the best way to play the game? It's basically sitting next to your friends while you're playing the game. But again, you can't really do that often, right? Because there's physical boundaries. It takes effort and friction to get in a car and drive to your friend's apartment and play a game together. With this kind of model, especially if you reduce the friction to play together, which I think is at least as important as voice and video chat, you replicate that experience of like sitting next to your friend and playing more often. And I think one interesting thing that we saw with this kind of shift in top of the funnel is not only people are more engaged playing these games, we're seeing that it encourages people to capture game moments and share them with their friends as well, right? Because it's one thing to take a clip of your game to remember it and share with your friends. It's another thing to look at the game clip with your friends' video and reactions on it. right? Like if you looked at the Twitch stream without the video, it would be really dry, right? If you look at the game moment of your friend's gameplay, it's so much more fun if you're rewatching it with your friend's video as well, which I think it's an unexpected, interesting effect of video. It just makes it more shareable and watchable as well.
Yeah, fantastic. Great. Now, Geoff, what's your take on this?
Well, if I look at the We Were Here games, then there is no We Were Here game without audio communication, because the whole concept is based on that. And what we actually do is we use the mechanic of a walkie-talkie. And a walkie-talkie is really unique because it's push to talk, but it's also when I push it and talk to you, you cannot talk back from the other side. So that makes it even more difficult to communicate, because you need to learn the fact, oh, wait a minute, I should release the button and then you can talk and stuff like that. But that makes the game authentic. That's really what we feel is original to this game. And it's been there from really the first prototype. That has been the concept. So audio communication is really what we also use in the game design. We don't just come up with a puzzle. We think, okay, you have these two people. What if he sees this kind of sign? How is he going to describe that to the other person? Is it going to be funny? Is it going to be difficult? Sometimes we do pictures that really look like genitals or something, and then you're like, I can't really say the word, but it looks like oh, I know what you mean. So we do that in the game design because we know people have to communicate via the audio and tell that what that is. So we play with that a lot. So there is no We Were Here game without audio communication between players. It's impossible.
Yeah, that's great. So what I thought was interesting is that both of you are trying to emulate the real world experience. So, for example, like Total Mayhem game, you're trying to emulate the walkie-talkie, right? This is how you communicate. You push the button to talk. Even though in digital world you can do any way you want, but you actually decide to emulate this real world experience. And Bunch, you're trying to emulate this. You're playing on the couch with your friend experience, right? That you can watch each other's face. So I think that's interesting. That kind of create this world that people feel that they are really in the physical world together, right? Even though they're not. And I think that's very different from just the text communication, right? Because sending text messages, that's not a natural thing, right? In the real world, when you don't send each other text, you don't write on the keyboard, right? So I think what you're doing is really the higher fidelity communication for human, really in general, to make it more you feel like you're actually in the real world.
Right.
Great, that's awesome. Now, so how are you seeing this actually have an impact on your on your core like gaming metric, right? Are you seeing this actually increase your retention, or this help people to stay longer? For example, I think for We Were Here together as a game, this Champ franchise, you had it for a long time, right? Single franchise, you keep it for a long time. Are you seeing this as a part of the reason that may help you retain your existing user?
Well, if We Were Here was a single-player game, for example, and we would throw really complex puzzles to the player, I think they would quit really early or earlier than they do now, because now you're with a friend and he's like, come on, well, let's try another time. I got an idea. Let's try this idea. This time it's going to work. So I think that is a way that people will, try a puzzle again before they give up. And if it was a single-player game, they would, forfeit much earlier. Also, I believe that it works in a viral way, because if I have the game, but I always need another player to play with, then I have my friend I'm playing it with, but he's not always available. So I'm looking at this other friend. I'm saying, you know what? I'm playing this game. We were together. I'm halfway through, but this guy I'm playing with, he's not available. Okay, maybe we should play this together. So that's also a way that instead of a single-player game where you just had your experience, now you're sharing it with everyone and you're drawing people in and saying, come on, let's play this together.
Yeah, that's great. Selcuk, are you seeing any like key metric that's the impact of using using the social elements of voice and video?
I think that would be a difficult question for us to answer, because like Bunch is a video chat application, right? So I think Geoff is a better person to answer that question, because the video is at the core of what we do.
Yeah, that's right. All right, so then let's then maybe you can share with us, Socha, like how is your your application or your experience different from Discord, right? Because Discord is very well known, and a lot of people already use Discord to communicate inside the game, or actually while playing a game, not inside the game. So how do you compare Bunch to Discord?
Right. I'll compare to Discord and also compare to in-game chat, right? So Discord is a great application, but it's really designed for hardcore gamers, right? People, the way I would define a hardcore game is like people who care more about the game and the community than the social experience of playing with actual people that you know. And it's a great way to create like hundreds of connections with people that you don't really know in real life, right? And connect with the community. Bunch is a more mainstream experience that is a lot more integrated, catering to a more casual user who cares more about like the social experience of playing the game while you're communicating with your friends. That's what it's really built around, and that's why, for example, if you look at Bunch users, less than 10% of them have Discord installed on their phone, even though Discord is like such a mainstream huge application. We find that we're a lot more similar to like an Xbox Live than a Discord. And on the other hand, there's like in-game chat implementations like Total Mayhem, which I think are awesome. And that makes a lot more sense, for example, if you want to give people who are already playing the game a way to communicate. And especially it's even better if you have like these in-game dynamics like the walkie-talkie system that they've done. But I think one of the advantages of using Bunch for a user is that it is persistent. Right? A lot of in-game chat solutions are great, but it basically begins and ends with the game session. And there's not a lot of ways to kind of communicate with your friends before or after the game is happening. So I would say that's like one of the benefits of using Bunch for users, that they have like a persistent place to play games, and they can actually move from game to game together with their friends. It's a more seamless way once you have Bunch on your phone.
Yeah, it's a very different experience than the in-game communication.
Right. And it doesn't even conflict with each other. Like I think a lot of games who have in-game chat would benefit from optimizing their game for Bunch as well.
Yeah, makes sense. Now, so Geoff, so how about you? So why did you want to embed voice inside the game instead of just let your user use Discord to communicate?
Well, let me put up front that we don't discourage people to use Discord. I mean, if that is their preferred way to communicate with each other, by all means use it. Here in the office, we're also a big fan of Discord. But if I look from a consumer point of view, I just want a hassle-free experience. So, I've gone through all this trouble to find this game, encouraged my buddy to find this game, downloaded it. The last thing I want to do is install another plugin, create a Discord account. Halfway through, I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to do something else. So what we wanted to do is give you an experience that was hassle-free. You don't need to do anything else. You can just, right from the get-go, you can go playing. And we also want to use that unique mechanic of the walkie-talkie, which is not available in any chat application because it's not really a handy thing to do. But for our game, it's unique, and that's why we do it.
Yeah, makes sense. Cool. Now you both have chosen Agora for the video and voice technology behind your platform and product. So can you share with us why? Selcuk.
So we've actually migrated from another video stack to Agora, as you will recall in the early days of Bunch. And the reason we did that is like the other solution that we were using was like heating the phone, and it was kind of draining the battery, and it wasn't a very efficient implementation on mobile. And when we prototyped with Agora, we realized that it's actually a more efficient solution. Right? It doesn't really kind of heat up the phone and use up the battery. And that's why we went with it, and we've been happy.
Great. Thank you for that. And Geoff, why did you choose Agora?
Well, during the production of We Were Together, the third installment, we had 2 games already out. And, every meeting that we had with the board was, and then there's a voice issue. And then there's a voice issue. And if you see that, like every week coming by, and every time there's something wrong with voice, then you're like, okay, we need to fix this. So what I sat down with the tech team and I said, guys, find out every tool, every plugin, whatever it is, every platform there is, prototype it, bring it to our user base, because we have a set of alpha users, as we call them. These people are really close to us, and they get a really small glimpse of the game, and we put some technology in, or a bit of story, a bit of puzzle, and they give us feedback. So we put all the technology in those builds, and the feedback that came back was, what we needed was, we needed the walkie-talkie mechanic, which is really specific. A lot of tools cannot handle that. We also need, a 7 or 8 hour straight gameplay. So people, our audience, is usually playing for multiple hours at a row. So what we want is that the voice still holds up. The network needs to hold up. The plugin needs to hold up. Like Selcuk said, you don't want any heat issues or anything because of high CPU usage. And the result was that Agora had all these things, and especially worked very well with the walkie-talkie mechanic. So that's why we said, okay, if the price is reasonable and we can, ship it in time, let's go for Agora.
Great. Thank you both for sharing, and thank you for your trust in Agora. Now let's switch to entrepreneurship. I know both of you have worked in the software industry for a long time, and you've worked in a different category outside of game, right? So I want to get your perspective on the difference between game and other software category. Like what is the big difference that you see? Selcuk.
Before I started Bunch, like last 2 startups I started were both in advertising technology. It's like the furthest thing that you can find from probably gaming, except we're going to market our games and stuff as well, right? I think with ad tech, I think most enterprising products, you're basically looking at a metric like, what's the return on advertising spend am I able to create for my clients and stuff. And in gaming, it's more of like an art and science where you're trying to craft fun, but you're looking at it in a more scientific and experimental way, like trying to figure out the right process to craft fun. And the feedback that you're getting from the results is quite different, right? One is you're looking at like an advertising report. The other one is like you're seeing like people's comments and feedback about like how they've had an amazing game night with their family, or how they're able to connect with their loved ones when they're physically apart. So I think the feedback that you get from the market is a lot more human when you're building a gaming product.
Yeah, definitely. How about you, Geoff? What is the difference that you see?
Well, I kind of agree with Selcuk on this. I mean, I have an experience of 20 years in software industry with creating business applications, and fun was never on a list anywhere. So if it does what it needs to do, and it does that efficiently, and the task is okay, then it's fine. You're done. That's the software. And with games, it can do exactly everything it says on the box, and check every box there is, and then still people say to you, but it's not fun. And that's a really hard part, but also very satisfying. If you have found a way to nail the fun in an original way, I mean, it's very easy to grab a game concept that already works and put your own label on it. But if you really find something original and you can make that fun, and people are really enthusiastic about it, and every time we go to YouTube or every time we go to Twitch and we see players play our game together and have fun, that's so satisfying. I've never had any other job where I had that feeling of people really being so satisfied with your product.
Yeah, that's right. That's very a very rewarding experience. Now I want to ask you, like, what is your recipe for creating fun? I know it's really hard. There might not be a universal recipe that's like, okay, just follow these steps and you create fun experience for your user. But is there anything like you feel there's anything that you learn that this is so important to actually create that fun experience? Well, what is that? 1 or 2 things that you can name. Selcuk.
I think the formula is that there's no formula, right? So we have this cultural value at Bunch. It's like heart and science, right? So like I think you have to start from the heart and like make something that you love, and if hopefully you enjoy it, other people enjoy it too, and then you go from there and you experiment and try things until like something works.
Yeah, makes sense. And Geoff?
Well, I agree, of course, with Selcuk. I always compared with gold digging. Nobody actually knows where you can find the gold. You just keep on digging, and you hope you strike gold. But when you strike gold, it's also really important to test that with an audience and give it to them. And if you have a fan base, make sure that whatever you change or whatever you do new, give it to your audience and make sure you get your feedback from them, because people can really sometimes you get really narrow-minded and you have a tunnel vision and you think, okay, this is going to be great, and the thing that you think is actually going to be great, people will say it's not great, it's not cool. So despite the fact that you think that you know what the fun is or you know what success is, always use an audience to tell you if it's true or not.
Great. So you always try and error. You're always testing.
And sometimes you never know. Like, for example, one thing that I remember from talking to Henry Smith, who's the creator of Space Team, which is a very fun game. When I was talking to him, he was telling me that it was just like a scratch game. Like, he was just like trying to push a game out there to see, like, yeah, let's see if I can make a game, right? And then that game was the one that was like the most successful game that came from it, right? So it's like hard to know. It's almost like, how do you make it hit?
Yeah, there's no formula. I agree.
Well, okay. But the one thing that in common is you have to keep trying. You have to keep just trying and error.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think you find it.
Don't give up.
Great. Don't give up. All right. Great. Now, one last question. What do you think is the future of social gaming? So you've got to fast forward 5-10 years from now. What would that look like? Selcuk, start with you.
I think the platform is going to matter less, right? Because I think what we really care about players is playing the games that we love and with people that we love playing them with. And whether you're on like Steam or Xbox or PlayStation or mobile or PC, it's not really going to matter, right? I think we're going to have the content on wherever platform you are works with the people that you want to play with. And we're going to see less fragmentation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cross the boundary. Now, Geoff, what do you think the future of social gaming will be like?
Yeah, I also believe that hardware will disappear in the fact that now we're really focused on: are you using an Xbox? Are you using a PlayStation? Are you on PC? Are you using your mobile phone? And I think that in the future, we will have just one device, or we don't care about the device. We just have an experience that's always there. Your friends are always there if you want to talk to them, whether you're playing a game or you're going to the bathroom. It's so integrated in everyday. It will be so integrated in everyday life that you can connect to them whenever you want to. Or you can talk to them whenever you want to. Just like if you're telling now very young kids that Wi-Fi is a thing that didn't used to be there. They're like, what? Wi-Fi is everywhere. You can always use Wi-Fi. You grab a tablet, then you have Wi-Fi. And that's how social experience is also going to be. It's always going to be there and going to feel so natural just to contact your friends without any hassle, without any limitations.
Great, fantastic. Well, we'll look forward to that future. Now, while this concludes the first part of WeChat, and then we're going to open up for Q&A with a live audience. Now, for all the live audience out there, you can raise your hand. There's a button, looks like a hand on the right-hand side of the screen. You can just click on the button, and the moderator will bring you in and put you in the queue. So we'll just based on first come, first serve. If you don't want to show up on the video stream, you can also ask the question on the chat window. So both options available. Now, meanwhile, as you think about the questions you can ask to Selcuk and Geoff, I want to ask a couple rapid fire questions to both of them. So the question is, who's your favorite superhero and why? Geoff?
Deadpool, hands down.
Why?
Because of the attitude, because of the comic relief. Just he doesn't even think he's a superhero. I think that's awesome.
Okay, because he's the anti-superhero.
Yeah, exactly.
Selcuk?
I think, I'm not sure if he's a superhero, but my favorite fictional character would be like Han Solo, actually, from Star Wars. It's not like Luke Skywalker, where basically you always like play by the rules, but it's not like Darth Vader, where you're destroying planets. It's like being a good pirate. Like,
I have a bad feeling about this.
Right? Like, not playing by the rules, like making your own way, but still trying to save the world at it.
Yeah, that's right. He's one of my favorite characters as well. Cool, awesome. Well, I think we'll be open up for questions pretty soon. But meanwhile, I want to remind the live audience, we also have a survey up on the chat window. So I would encourage you to fill out the survey and then tell us what you like and what you don't like and any suggestions for future VChat. So thank you, and then we'll have some really great prizes out there for those people who fill out the survey. All right, with that, I think we can open up for Q&A. Let's see who has the first question. Hello, Sean.
Hello there.
Hey, Sean.
Hi there. Thanks for setting this up, guys. I just want to say, big thanks for doing this. This is a really cool way to engage with, fellow creators and people in the industry. I have a question that's directed mostly for Geoff. It's around player feedback and how you acquire your data and what's your methodology for doing a balancing. We're an escape room designer. We've been building escape rooms for 6 or 7 years, really high-end stuff, and we fell in love with We Were Here. But one of the biggest challenges we have is adapting to our initial feedback round, and then figuring out, well, how do we make this more enjoyable while still maintaining challenge? We always find that to be our biggest struggle in game design. And I was wondering, what's your advice for the approach, or what's your methodology that seems to work?
All right. Well, first of all, I'm always happy to talk to a We Were Here fan. Well, what we actually do is we put a lot of effort and time in making prototypes, prototypes of story, prototypes of puzzles, prototypes of events, and we have a group of people, several hundred, that are really our fan base, and we serve them, and we don't all serve them the same thing. We use groups, and we give this group that version and that group that version. And then we collect all that data statistically, but also just their user findings. And what we usually want them to do is put on a camera and show us your face, because your face, your expression is the most important to us. And especially, hey, look, there he goes. That's the face who I was looking for. And especially, the sign of victory. So if it's hard, it doesn't matter. But if you really feel like, oh yeah, we solved it, the victory, then we know it's a good puzzle. And even, of course, if it's in a certain amount of time, but that sense of victory is really important to us. And I can imagine that if you make physical escape rooms, it's a lot harder to get that feedback, because we can ask, 100 people at the same time, but you can't physically get 100 people in the same escape room at the same time.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, no, that's thank you for that advice. I do have just a little bit of a follow-up, and then I'm going to put this one out there. What are your biggest challenges that you see with the change of player behavior from traditional video games, where players interact with what I would call a non-communicative platform, something where they're not talking or not seeing each other? And what happens when you start to introduce elements of always on dynamic chat or dynamic video? And I open this to both of you, because I think it's a really interesting social behavior change that we're witnessing in terms of how games are being developed and designed.
Well, if I look from our point of view, I think that 10 years ago it would be an issue. People didn't want to talk to each other. I mean, I was one of the first people on Xbox Live, and every time you found someone, nobody wanted to talk to you anyway. But now I see, especially young people, there's no limitation anymore. It's just natural. It's okay. Of course, sometimes you have people that are shy. And for us, we are making experiences that you already play with your friends, so it's easier. But I think maybe Selcuk can tell you more about, really having engaged with a lot of people at the same time in the same game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's about the trade-off between the communication channel and the game, right? And really, that's why I think it depends on the game. And like some games, you want to see video a lot more dominantly in the experience. In some games, you want to be able to let the user swipe it off the screen, bring it back. One of the cool things that we do at Bunch, if you play a third-party game like Roblox through Bunch on an Android device, we, for example, have this thing called the Bunch overlay. It runs like a little orb that the user can move around. But then, for example, when you tap, it basically expands and shows you everyone, right? So that's like by design, because it mimics the experience of like you play the game and then you look up to your friends when you're taking a break, and we want to give the user the control to do that. So I think the kind of trade-off between like you can enhance the experience with communication, but then you need to kind of balance it out against like distracting it, right? So like kind of playing that trade-off is, I think, something like a new trade-off that as game designers and developers we need to be mindful of.
All right. Well, thank you. Yeah, I couldn't have asked for a more concise and simple answer from two people that I think know how this works better than most people in the industry. Again, thank you guys for the time, and I appreciate your feedback, and looking forward to conversing with you guys and Virginia working with the Agora platform in the future.
Great. Thank you, Sean, for the question.
Cool.
Awesome. We also have some questions on the chat window. There's a question from Emily Kim, managing partner from Merryworks. The question is, want to understand, how do you handle security for kids in this ubiquitous world? So Bunch, maybe we'll have you answer this because you have more younger audience on your platform.
I mean, our core audience is millennial, but we do have younger people too. So one thing that we do is we basically do not make Bunch available for anyone under 13. Right? Like if on the App Store we're unlisted for under the age of 13. When you download the application, we ask how old you are, and if you tell us that you're under 13, we don't let you use the application. Having said that, in the future, for example, we would like to create Bunch for kids. But the way that we do that would be having like some kind of like Chinese wall between the two social networks, right? Where we didn't want like anybody under the age of 13 to connect with somebody over the age of 13 unless there's like a parent-kid relationship there, right? And then if we were doing something like Bunch for kids, we wouldn't do video chat. We would just do voice chat, and we wouldn't ask for your first name and last name. So things like that, we definitely are in high consideration. But our current solution right now is we just not make it available to those users and kind of make it very easy to do reporting inside the application. There are like things that we do that are more automated things as well. Like for example, if we see somebody sending a lot of friend requests to people who they're in no way connected to, we just disable their accounts temporarily until we know what's going on, things like that.
Yeah, great. And thank you for that. And Geoff, do you have anything to add to that?
For us, it's not that really an issue because we use platforms like Xbox, like Steam. They already have a verification for age. People always play with a friend. We have a policy of no gore in the game because we know it's really important to have it on YouTube and everybody look at the game. So we have a policy of no gore, no racial differences, stuff like that. We think that it should be a really fun experience for everyone, but we don't have a lot of struggle of kids in our area.
Yeah, makes sense. Great. Now, let's see. Do we have any other live audience or questions from our live audience? If not, we do have more questions from the chat window. There's one question from Kumar Gaurav, product developer from GraphTail. How has social communication impacted the user engagement bottom line? So Geoff, how about we have you answer that first?
I'm trying to really understand what he's trying to ask. How is social communication impacted? If he means by the fact that you play together and you talk together, I think that it's why people play our games. Actually, I think it's because they want to spend time together, and then we give them an experience and story to play together. So these people already decided to play together, and we are the choice to spend that time. But actually, we come in a certain way that they already have a social moment. They already want to spend time together, and then we offer an experience that you can do in that time.
Yeah, thank you. And Selcuk, do you have anything else to add to that?
No, I agree with everything that Geoff said, and like ultimately, it's kind of tough for us to answer that because like we are all about social communication, right? So Bunch is a communication application, and we were here together is by definition a social. It's difficult to kind of benchmark with everybody. Yeah, great. Yeah, thank you.
So thank you. So I hope that answered the question from the audience. Oh, there's a live audience coming in. Hello, Jimmy.
How are you guys doing?
Good.
How are you?
Pretty good. Just have a quick question here. You should be able to see me now. Okay. So this question is really for Geoff. So you had a lot of experience building very boring business applications, and then you had an opportunity to do something that's a lot of fun, obviously. So my partner and I, we have a company, and we too bring a lot of business application experience to the table. But we recently decided to start building training using just a simple platform such as Unity. And we're insurance guys, and we're moving into different industries. And so you can imagine anything that moves in that space, it's like a game of peekaboo. Oh my God, it's so cool. It doesn't require much. Anything we do, they love it. So if you had to go back to the business world, how would you make business applications fun for training for subjects such as cybersecurity? Like, how do you recognize phishing? How do you recognize when you're being led down a path that could lead to a breach? That's the business that we're in. We do that for cybersecurity. We do this for emergency preparation. Whenever we do start meeting again, you're going to have issues like active shooter. How do you plan for these types of things? So give me off the top of your head some of the things we can do to make that fun. Obviously, video and in-game chatting is something we want to explore. But I just wanted to hear your thoughts on it.
Well, that's a tough question. I mean, that is looking for gold, like we discussed earlier.
Yeah.
But one advice that I would have is just designed for the fact that these people are of course not gamers. So if you look at them, how they would interact in a virtual world, in a PC, it's pretty difficult because you have your keyboard, you have to use all these buttons, you have a mouse. But if you maybe submerge someone with an Oculus Quest, and make that experience really simple, but just use the basic thing that you want to, the information that you want to give them, or the goal that you want them to achieve, put that up front, and don't make it too complicated. Don't add too much features. Don't add too much things that you find in games that work really well for gamers. But just make it really simple and make it a goal to achieve and a next goal to achieve. And if you can submerge them in a very simple world, I mean, simplicity is usually much better than trying to make a realistic world, which costs a lot of money and time and effort. And still people would say, it's not that great. So make it very simple. And I think that nowadays I hear a lot of friends of mine at banks and insurance companies and stuff like that introducing experiences like a VR headset and really simple controls, and people immediately understand what the goal is and why they're doing that.
Wow, thank you. We were definitely going to complicate things. We were heading down that road pretty quickly. So I appreciate you taking the time to answer that question, and keep doing what you guys are doing. I have not played your game, but I'm going to download both of your games today. So I'm one of those users that, because of COVID, now we all know each other. So whatever brings us together. But thanks again.
Cool. Thanks so much for sharing.
All right.
Thank you, Jimmy. Well, we actually have a lot of questions on the chat window as well, but I think we're actually maybe out of time. However, we do have the opportunity to socialize in the social lounge after this will conclude the session. So actually, I would like to actually conclude first, and then I will potentially have you guys all hang out in the social lounge and answer some additional questions from the live audience. So now quickly, just go over a couple more webinars that are coming up. For those technical audience, we have 2 more live talks on gaming. One is how to build video chat out into a Unity game, and the other one is how do you build video chat inside your Unreal game. So please join us and feel free to sign up as soon as you can. And then we also have a nice lead chat coming up end of June, and this time we'll be talking about mental health and well-being. So with Talkspace and Phoenix Project. So please sign up. Now let's go to the last slide. I want to thank you all. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you, Selcuk. Thank you, Geoff, for sharing your insights. Very, very honored to host you today. Now that's the chat session, but let's also go ahead and move to the social lounge. And please, for the live audience, if you have any questions, make sure you save a seat on the table. This is actually just like the real world networking. You actually just table and seats. So save a seat for both of our guests, and they will be staying with us for another 15-20 minutes to answer additional questions from all the live audience. Thank you again, and we'll see you next time.